I'd like to turn your attention to a recent investigation that you headed up. The bombing of Warren Lockridge's newspaper. Were there a lot of suspects in that bombing?
Of course.
1, 2, 10, 20?
It was wide open.
Is that the approach you took to the investigation?
That's the approach I take to all my investigations. I make it a practice to consider all the possibilities.
And you believe that there were a lot of possibilities in this case?
Mr. Lockridge's newspaper has made a lot of enemies. Seems to me any one of those people could have planted that bomb.
Offended political factions, that type of thing?
Exactly.
I understand. You also questioned Mason Capwell during the course of your investigation, did you not?
I did.
That's quite a leap, isn't it, Inspector?
Objection, the prosecutor's leading the witness.
I'm trying to establish a hostile connection between the defendant and Mason Capwell, Your Honor.
Objection denied.
I'll repeat the question. We were talking about the political enemies of the Santa Barbara Conscience, and then you said that you would also question Mason Capwell. I said I thought that was quite a leap.
A leap from what?
Offended political factions to Mason Capwell.
Mason was just one of the possibilities.
And what led you to that conclusion?
Here comes trouble. Conversation I had with the defendant.
So Warren Lockridge convinced you that Mason was guilty of planting the bomb?
Objection, leading the witness. Sustained. Could you rephrase, Mr. Marling?
Did you have any suspicion of Mason's guilt regarding the bombing?
No, I did not. May I clarify?
Clarify by all means.
Thank you. My talk with Mr. Lockridge raised a number of questions. One of the several things I felt were appropriate to do afterwards was to have a conversation with Mr. Capwell, and I did.
So, after speaking to the defendant, you thought that there was a probability that Mason was guilty of planting the bomb. Am I right?
Objection, leading the witness, asked and answered. Sustained.
I'll rephrase. Did Warren Lockridge say anything that led you to look at Mason as a suspect?
Yes.
And did your investigation lead you to conclude that Mason was, in fact, guilty?
No, in my opinion, he was not.
Has the question of the bombing ever been solved?
No. It's very much an open case.
One more thing. On the night of the shooting, did Warren Lockridge still harbor the belief that Mason Capwell was responsible for bombing his office?
Objection. Speculation. The witness has no way of knowing what was going on in my client's mind. This is really going too far, Your Honor. Sustained.
Did Warren Lockridge say anything about the bombing on the day of the shooting?
He told me he believed that Mr. Capwell was responsible.
We're almost done, Inspector. Just one more thing I'd like to go over. Warren Lockridge was recently incarcerated in Bangkok, Thailand, was he not?
Objection. What my client did or didn't do in Thailand has no relevance to the matter here.
On the contrary, your client was on Thailand's equivalent of death row. I think the jury deserves to know what role Inspector Castillo played in this little melodrama.
Mr. Marley, will you address your remarks to the court? I'm going to overrule the objection, but I'm warning you, I am not amused by your theatrics. Stick to the facts. And I'd like to get to the point of this line of questioning quickly.
Yes, Your Honor. Inspector Castillo, the facts surrounding the incarceration of Warren Lockridge don't interest me nearly as much as the role that you played in getting him unincarcerated. It's my understanding that you broke him out of jail.
Objection. Your Honor, the witness is not on trial.
I'm merely trying to establish the relationship between the witness and the accused. Realizing the depth of their friendship is the only way that the jury can objectively weigh Inspector Castillo's assertion the defendant's innocence.
Overruled. The witness will answer.
I'll repeat the question. Did you or did you not help Warren Lockridge break out of a Thailand jail?
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to confuse you. Yes, I did. I broke him out of jail. I'll do it again in a minute. Okay?
Your witness.
Order.
Regarding this Thailand incident, do you know what charges were leveled against Mr. Lockridge?
Yes, I do.
In your opinion, were they reasonable?
In my opinion, they were ridiculous.
Objection. This court is not interested in the witness's opinion of Thailand law.
The prosecutor opened this line of questioning, Your Honor. Overruled. Would you tell the court what these charges were, Inspector?
Well, basically, Mr. Lockridge was sentenced to death because it was alleged he'd had certain intimacies with the daughter of a friend of a highly placed government official.
It sounds pretty convoluted.
Yes, it does.
After Mr. Lockridge was liberated, were these charges subsequently dropped?
Yes, they were.
Why?
It turned out that Mr. Lockridge and this woman had not been intimate after all.
In other words, he was accused of a crime that he did not commit.
Yes, and sentenced to die for it.
It's funny how history tends to repeat itself, isn't it? No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
The witness is excused.